Dear colleagues, let me tell you a few words about the different ways of children burials in the Nitra culture. It's early Bronze Age. In 2019 and 2021, together with my colleague, we carried out rescue archaeological excavation in Nitra Dolné Krškany. It was a large burial site with 191 graves. The research was financed by the investor, and however, there were no money left for processing. And in January 2025, I applied for a grant project to process the burial ground and compare it with the already published material. When I was filling the grant project, I worked in detail with the several burials from that period. In this paper, I would like to highlight the potential of the published burial. Okay. Before I touch on the issue of the children, I will say a few words about the Nitra culture. Nitra culture is part of the largest epicorded Carpathian cultural complex. It is expanded on the territory of southwestern Slovakia and eastern Moravia. The most significant sites in southwestern Slovakia are concentrated in the Nitra River. Burial grounds dominate. Now we have more than 60 cemeteries, and settlements are almost unknown. No object interpreted as a dwelling comes from the territory of Slovakia, and the largest burial ground was excavated by Josef Bátora in Mýtna Nová Ves and has up to 606 graves. And that's the question, where they lived. We have no settlements. Josef Bátora divided the culture in three chronological phases on the basis of the data from the burial ground in Jelšovce, on the early, classical, and late phase. Despite having over 60 cemeteries, absolute data are sporadic. Most were taken only to establish the dating of the grave until just published, and based on these data, it appears that the several of the burial grounds on the Nitra River were active at the same time. This is very important information. This fact is important for following the interaction between these communities. This is the material content of the individual phases based on C14 data from the burial ground in Nitra Dolné Krškany, as I mentioned previously, and a typical item is a jewelry in the shape of a willow leaf. Where is the point? Okay, this is willow leaf, so you can see it, and also here. This shape was used in the production of ring ornaments for the head as herrings, hands as a bracelet, and fingers as rings. Also knives were made in the shape of willow leaves. The Nitra culture belongs to the earlier Bronze Age, but all metal artifacts are made of copper. In spite of the already mentioned jewelry in the shape of the willow leaves, simple wire ring ornaments have also been found. We can see it here. In the female graves, we find bone, antler, and copper beads. In the male graves, we also find weapons, as arrowheads made of stone, antler, and stone axes, and copper daggers and axes. As I mentioned earlier, most material culture comes from burial site. The largest burial sites are Abraham, Branč, Jelšovce, Mýtna Nová Ves, Nitra Dolné Krškany, and Výčapy Opatovce. All of them have more than 100 graves, as you can see. Other sites, such as Blatné, Šala, Tvrdošovce, and Zohor, with less number of graves, were also analyzed. Several burial sites have an anthropological report. However, anthropology focused mainly on sex and age determination, nothing else. Of course, this anthropological report, most of them comes from 70s, 80s, and 90s. In the case of the burial of Vyčapy Opatovce, which is very important because they have more than 100 children graves, only the sex of the individuals buried was published. There is no information on age. It is a rarity that some of the burial sites have been anthropologically analyzed up to twice. However, attention was focused on the specific phenomena studied. In the case of burial ground in branch, this was the detection of sex in children using several methods as a part of a doctoral thesis of Sonia Masnicová. Thanks to this, we have more exact data on the age of the children who died. In the case of Jelšovce, the burial of the Unetice, Nitra, and Maďarovce culture were compared in the context of the nutrition status of the population. This is one way to extract maximum data from older materials. The data in the table also tell us the number of individuals in the graves. The higher number of individuals, as you can see, versus graves in evidence is evidence of multiply graves in the burial site. The percentage of graves, children graves in relation to all graves is variable. In the case of the Abraham burial site, there are very few children graves in relation to adult graves. This was probably due to the absence of good quality skeletal material for analysis. Some sites were only partially excavated, and the percentage of children's grave may not correspond to the reality, for example, Šala. And the burial sites of Branč, Jelšovce, and Vyčapy Opatovce probably reflect the real situation. You can go. Anthropology has also influenced how we look at infant mortality. But to take it not so simple, anthropologists have made a little more challenging for us. As you can see, in the case of the Branč burial site, the classification was made in two categories, infants 1 and infants 2. And in the case of Jelšovce, it was into the three categories. The anthropologists did not always give us approximate age and use only the infant category. In all the evaluated burials, we noticed a very low representation of the smallest individuals as a newborns. We have just one child in Jelšovce, only one individual. Thanks to the doctoral thesis of Sonia Masnicová, who analyzed the already mentioned infant graves from the gender. Unfortunately, it was just 43 individuals. We find out that in 5 cases in Branč there are children younger than 1 year. 2 of them are even up to 6 months. It appears, of course, the similar situation is on the other burial grounds, but the question is, where are the youngest children? The higher mortality rate is for male children. Even here we cannot generalize that settlements statement because there are still enough graves for which the sex could not be determined, especially in the case of Jelšovce. It would be interesting to look at the analysis of the age structure in Vyčapy Opatovce because of more than 100 graves. But the age of the children who died is not included in the anthropological analysis. The people of Nitra culture were dead by gender. Men lay on the right side with head to the west, women of the left side with head to the east. As you can see, also orientation is different. These habits were followed even for the smallest individuals. Even in the multi-graves, individuals are buried in this way. In general, we may say that the children's grave pits were smaller than the graves of adults individuals. Of course, there was also graves of children whose grave pits reached the dimension of adults individuals. Usually, they were very rich. How visible are children's graves in burial grounds? For better illustration, I have marked the graves by gender. Children are marked in yellow. As an example, I have selected 3 representative burial sites with the largest number of individuals. At that plan, we can see. Okay, we can see this is the original grand plan, and this is okay. What's this? It's okay. This is the original plan of Jelšovce. Sorry. This is graves of Nitra culture. These are Unetice culture, and this is Magyaroce culture. Of course, we are in Nitra culture now. We are here somewhere. Okay. In the case of Jelšovce, the graves are very closely placed next to each other. Within the burial ground, there is no separate district for the graves of children, but on the plan we can see several concentration. We can see here some concentration of children graves. During my research, I found that the grave goods are very sporadic. It is very difficult to find connection between adults and the children in the poorer graves. Despite this, 2 graves in Group B, this is Group B, were found with very similar, not very common finds. Grave 5012 and 5013 has beads. Of course, beads are most common, but these beads were placed at their feet. Maybe it was something what was patched on the clothing. Group D. This is Group D, is also very important because there is a very rich grave, and of course there is a very rich child grave. The similar situation is also at the burial site in Vyčapy Opatovce. This is original ground plan. This is mine. In the concentration of children graves A, here, we can see that the buried individuals have the same ornaments, hair rings, but this is the typical jewelry in the graves. These are also found on the female and some male graves in a very close distance of the children graves. In some cases, we can see concentration of children of the same sex. For example, at Group B, this is Group B. We can see that there are female or children graves, but without the inventory. We don't have idea what is it. Okay, sorry. Probably the best example is the burial site in Branch, where we can see clearly visible groups. In the case of the graves in the central part, this is central part and this is central part, we record rich children graves, but also graves of adults. In the graves of 2 boys, there were found knives. This is not very common material, and the situation is similar for the graves of Group B. They have the buried. They have rings. The children graves show a more significant grave goods, which are very similar to the goods of the male and female graves in their close surrounding. For these groups, we can speak of possible familiar relationships. Other groups are of different nature. these two groups, C and D. In group C, sorry. In group C, 7 children belongs to the category infants 1. 2 of them, graves 113 and 115, were identified as an infants under 6 months, and 1 grave 114 under 1 year. Only these 3 youngest children had a grave goods inventory, and they're the herring. Okay, when children and adults with the same grave goods are concentrated, we somehow automatically think of kinship, but how to interpret grouping of children? In the case of concentration C, it was this. It may have been a complex for the youngest children who may or may not have been related. It also raises the question, when did these groups arise? Was that area formed as one at one time, or was it used to bury the youngest individuals over an extensive period of time? They could have been children who died at about the same time, or died in the same way of disease, like an epidemic or something like this. This is very important because this group of younger children is the answer of absence of the smallest individual in the burial grounds. Okay. If we miss DNA data, we try different ways to discover possible relationships. During the research of the burial site in Nitra Dolné Krškany, we identified several small grave pits that were touching or partially overlapping with the graves of adult individuals. After cleaning, we found that in 7 cases, the graves belonged to adults and children. We were surprised to find that 6 of the graves included children buried near adult males. In only 1 case was it a woman. It was a woman and a child. My first idea at the time was that this is example of a patrilinearity. So I tried to look at the other burial site, the nearest to Nitra Dolné Krškany is Branch. It is a site only 11 kilometers away from the Nitra Dolné Krškany. There are similar graves at the burial site as well. After a short analysis, I found that the combination of a woman and a child is more frequent in that burial. This suggests that communities of the same culture may have different customs. Okay. In burial grounds, we also see the burial of several individuals in one grave. We have children of the same sex, different sex, or children buried with adults. In a few cases, we can also talk about the individuals in one grave pit. Here. This is very nice example, the grave 225. There are 7 individuals, and it may indicate that they are relatives, but we don't know now. When I showed that grave to my colleague, she joked that they have mushroom soups for dinner. In addition to individuals who were buried in the grave at the same time, we were evidence of subsequent burial in earlier graves. In the Nitra culture, we meet with this phenomenon at the burial site in Nitra Dolné Krškany. In 2 cases, female and children were found in the backfill. Female children were found in the backfill of the grave pit of buried adult males. During the research, it was not possible to identify secondary burial in the backfill of the original grave pit. The question is where the children placed in the backfill during the backfilling of the adult's grave pit, or were they placed after some time. But it must be in the time when the grave was visible, because the subsequent grave not disturbed the edge of the grave pit. we have the similar situation in the Vyčapy Opatovce. Okay. This is the second grave, and on the basis of the foregoing, we can conclude that children in the Nitra culture were buried in several ways. They were classical burials similar to adults' burials, which means that children were full members of the society. However, they also occur in multi-burials and in several variants. In the Nitra culture, we have identified multi-graves where individuals were buried in the same time, but also several graves with subsequent burials. Groups of adults and children graves with similar grave goods have been identified, which may represent kinship. For some groups, however, we can also consider another reason. Okay, in conclusion, I would like to thank for the opportunity to present this state of the issue of children in the Nitra culture in the early Bronze Age in Slovakia. My aim was to highlight material that has great potential. The current trend is, of course, genetic, which could help to solve many of the questions raised in this presentation. In the next session, my colleague Dominika Orakanova, who is also working on a material, will present and show the power of the genetic information. Thank you. Sorry.